So quite a number of responses coming in on the subject of returns on our Rosemary story, etc. As I mentioned on Twitter, immediate response from Kim and one or two others saying that's not on. What was posted and advertised to her versus what she get is not the same thing. Kim's further comment is, I remember once hearing an online furniture retailer saying that they're in the business of selling images. And isn't this just a case in point, she says. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
And unfortunately, the law isn't on their side of that.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Kim. Now, okay, this is very sweet. Catherine WhatsApping to say, I'm sure Rosemary must have been out of her mind with frustration, but what a lovely lady. I don't think many of us would have been able to keep her cool, even helping them to carry the thing out to the truck. I hope she gets a full refund of the expenses incurred and the biggest bunch of roses possible. Thank you for sharing the story. Catherine, thank you for that. I hope Rosemary's still listening. And yes, let's hope some flowers come with an additional refund of those incidental expenses she incurred, to be continued. You mentioned the example of some retailers who will allow you to return but not allow you a free courier return, Woolies being one of them. Kira commenting saying, I ordered online from Woolworths only once and I will not do so again. I received a jersey that had a stain on it and I was made to physically go to a shop to return it, which was unacceptable in my opinion. I can understand if I'd simply changed my mind, but they had sent me defective goods.
Yes, so yeah, it is a thing. I've raised it with Woolworths formally and informally, and it's a cost issue. They don't make much money on the online side of their business because it is just so costly, and the returns make it much more so if you're going to absorb it. So their solution, instead of making customers pay and arranging that courier service for that purpose, the payment would, I don't know. Maybe they don't want consumers contracting with couriers that aren't going, whatever.
Theirs,
So you go into a store, which in 2024 is certainly not best practice or any time, because if you're choosing to shop online, there's a reason for it, and if it's stained, defective in some other way, or you just don't like it, which often happens with online, or the sizing is not what you expected, then you have to schlep into a store, and it's it's not.
It defeats the whole purpose.
It's not consumer
of doing
friendly, to put it kindly. Yes.
On the other hand, you have case studies like this. Maureen writing in to say, I would like to send a huge shout out to Macro Online. I have on several occasions had reason to return items that are bought online. They've always been collected the next day and the money refunded to my credit card very promptly. The last situation was when I ordered an air fryer. I logged a return online, got an email to confirm the return, and the next day I got a call from a driver from Macro wanting to know if I was at home, as he wanted to collect the return. When he arrived a few minutes later, he got out of his car with the replacement in hand. Wow. I have nothing but praise for Macro Online, says Maureen.
Well done, Macro. We've given them a hard time about other online things, so it's very nice to balance that
sometimes
with a
it goes
perfect
right.
story.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the thinking ahead.
Yes.
That this customer is, why it is so irksome. Wendy, I know they'll say they've got to check whether it's damaged by the customer, etc. before
normally what happens. So
they can replace it.
Very gratifying to
hear.
How
wonderful.
She didn't say what was wrong with it, but I assume it was
defective. If I'm
Did she say it was defective?
Yes,
Okay,
it was.
right.
It wasn't heating up properly in the longer version that came through on the WhatsApp there. Excuse me for that. Now, speaking of good news case studies, Wendy, you've got a lovely case study to share with us that started out not being a not so great response, even if it was a legal one, but ended nicely. Won't you tell us about the pre-Christmas story?
Sure. I do love a good news story. Yeah. We're just following up with one from the listener there. So 3 days before Christmas, Pam McPherson and her husband bought their 10-year-old son a huge soccer set from the Lego store at Canal Walk as a Christmas gift. He actually had said he wanted the Minecraft Ninjago set, but the dad thought, well, he loves soccer too, and this could be interactive for the family, and we're going to do that. But it wasn't a big hit with the 10-year-old. Yeah. So 2 days after Christmas, Pam returned to the store with the 10-year-old and his older brother, hoping to exchange this big soccer set unopened for the Minecraft Ninjago one that the boy had his heart set on. She says that's when we were told for the first time that the soccer set had been discounted, and they don't do exchanges or refunds on discounted sets. So the assistant in the shop said when she was obviously unhappy with that. It was a lot of money, about 3,000 rand in that area. Gave them the email address of the company which owns the Lego stores in South Africa. It's called Great Yellow Brick. Great name. So they emailed that company, and they got a cut and paste response which read, "Unfortunately, our policy does not allow for items which are on sale to be returned or exchanged. If you'd like to see more details, you can use this link to check out the details of our policy," which was a rather cold response in my view. If you just pictured the scene of this little 10-year-old boy, and there have been legendary stories of Lego getting it so brilliantly right.
Yes.
With little boy, I remember when he lost his one little piece when he visited his dad's work or something, and the dad had told him not to take the piece out, and he lost it anyway, and he's so sad, and he got a bunch of figurines saying, "But your dad is right," and
look after your Lego.
Yeah, and it went viral, and for a brand like that especially, it's just so relevant, right? Especially a legacy brand like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Pam's point was spot on, a few of them. She says at no point did anyone indicate to them that the item was a discontinued one, and therefore there would be exchange restrictions. Now, I must just come here and say, as we've just spoken about an online retailer case, if they'd bought this set online, they would have had 7 days to take it back, as long as they hadn't opened it and broken the seals on the box itself, to get a full refund, right? Because that's the 7-day cooling off period you get when you buy online. But there is no such provision when you buy something from a physical store. The only time you have a legal right to return it is if it is defective in some way or misrepresented in some way. So, but most stores will take goods back if they are in a resellable condition. Few will give you a refund. They will offer you an exchange or credit, which is very fair. Yeah. Right. Okay. So there was an expectation here. They'd bought many times for the older son and for the younger one, and they knew that if it was unused, you could exchange. So I think she had a very good point here, because nobody said this is a discounted set. Please note.
The refund policy
and
is
when you think of it being bought without the child present as a gift, the chances are fairly high that it might not hit the spot and they might want to bring it back. So that was a material omission, I feel. They returned it within a few days of buying, within a week certainly, and they weren't asking for a refund. They were just asking for an exchange. They disappointed a 10-year-old boy to his face in front of his mother. And again, had they purchased it online, they would have, had the right to exchange. So, yeah.
So, when you've told us many times before, the Consumer Protection Act only compels a retailer to take back goods in the physical store if they're defective. If it's a so-called change of heart, and you bought it and you decided you didn't like it, or like in this case, they bought it and the child didn't like it. Technically, yes, legally, they're not obliged to do so. But as you've just said, how much does it really cost them?
Exactly. It's not old stock.
It's not old stock. It's not in damaged condition. The box hasn't been opened. They can take it, put it back on the shelf, and sell it to somebody else who genuinely wants it. Yes. And replace. The customer's not even asking for a refund. They want to take something else. And
it's Christmas time, don't forget. Yeah. It's 2 days after Christmas this goes down in the store. So yeah, as I say, I do think, though, technically, given that the store does do refunds of unwanted goods
in other
beyond the law, that's the established policy. By not disclosing that this one was discounted, therefore no refunds, I think that was a very material omission. So I phoned the store, Lego in Canal Walk, and I spoke to the manager, Pat, who was absolutely charming. She immediately, no defensiveness, she immediately said, when I told her about the circumstances of the case, she invited Pam to return to the store to do an exchange on that Lego set. She said, yes, there are rules that say we can't take back discounted sets, but I use my discretion on that, and I've done so many times. We need to judge the situation and bend the rules when circumstances call for it. And so she's invited them back. They're going to go on Sunday. She's going to be working on the day. She wants to meet them, apologize, and exchange it. So, and the family were delighted. I think they had pretty much written that money off. And they also, as a parent, they felt that they'd let him down because he'd said what he wanted. And they thought, this actually was probably even better. And yes, he does love soccer. So you can imagine And also thinking in the back of their minds, well, if he doesn't like it, we'll just take it back and get
it again.
Yes. And then it was, sorry, no, you're stuck with it. So I was very, very happy to be able to help in this case, and well done to Pat.
Absolutely.
For doing the right thing and doing what should have been done in the first place. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't get something more human, a response from the company that they emailed. It seemed a bit off-brand messaging to me,
particularly at Christmas time.
Yes.
As you said, you expect the sort of the extra warm and fuzzies at that time of
and
year.
they would have had the whole story about the fact that they weren't told it was discounted and all the rest.
But all's well that ends well. The Lego will be traded and the little boy will be playing with a set that he really wanted at the end of the weekend. So, Wendy, thank you so much. Oh, okay. Another positive Take-A-Lot story. And again, I just want to say both when Wendy said at the stop, she's had great experiences. I will add to that I have had also probably a dozen return processes through Take-A-Lot. And if not more, let's say 19 out of 20 have been handled very effectively. I have had a bad experience once, but the rest have always been very smooth and efficient. Rosemary's, though, was handled badly. Let's call it what it was, to say the very least. This person says, though, I shop regularly about 5 times a month on Take-A-Lot, and I've returned at least 20 plus items for various reasons, including missing parts, items not working, or just changing my mind. They've not queried a single one. They've either issued a refund or a replacement as per my request with no questions asked. Their service to me has been great. And as Wendy said at the start, that is generally the pattern.
Yeah. But I have taken up some horror cases, and I think for those, and what they've revealed is that they haven't got an adequate process and oversight for the cases that go horribly wrong. Mm-hmm. That's been my takeout from the cases that I've dealt with, taken up as a journalist with a formal media query, etc.
So here's, it's also a returns issue, although in a completely different market. This person says, I ordered a very difficult to find part for the xenon lights on my Honda CR-V. When it arrived, it was the part I ordered, but not the correct shape for my model of CR-V. I emailed immediately and received a rote response basically saying no return possible. After listening to Wendy on your show, I found the relevant sections of the Electronic Goods Act, Communications Act, and emailed those to them, but I've had no response.
Please send it to me.
Okay. Whoever sent that, if you could please send an email to Wendy on consumer@knowler.co.za, spelled KNOWLER. You're welcome to CC me in if you like, Pippa H@CapeTalk.co.za. What do you need,
As long as
Wendy?
he logged the return, within, they do 30 days, so I'm sure he did.
Yeah, okay. So send the details, all the dates, order number, who you ordered that part from, when it was delivered, etc. A copy of, if you can send us
Photos
a copy of the order
too,
that you placed or anything like that to help sort of build the body of evidence, as it were. And then send that through to consumer@knowler.co.za. And it's spelled KNOWLER. She knows a lot about consumer affairs. knowler.co.za. Anybody, by the way, while we're talking about those contact details, Wendy, that's one way to contact you. Your Facebook page is also another one.
Yes, Wendy Knowler Consumer.
Okay, so you can go and look for that.
There's a little tab
page
there that you can send an email through to my inbox.
Okay, and please do remember, if you are sending a query specifically for this show to be tackled on Cape Talk, do put Cape Talk in the subject line, please. It just helps us and helps Wendy in particular to keep track of all of those cases and to keep them all clustered together for the right station, given that she works across the entire platform of Prime Media. So thanks for that. Okay, minute or two in hand, Wendy. There was an interesting other case study that we had sort of skipped over because we thought we were going to run out of time. But I'm thinking maybe we should just pop back to it because it's quite an important issue around packaging when you're returning goods.
Yes.
So as you said, if the Lego, for example, was still in the box hasn't been ripped open, the seals are still intact, and there's nothing about it that would prevent it from being put back onto the shelf to sell to somebody else. It's still in acceptable as new condition. Yes. Very different story had they ripped open the box of soccer Lego and returned it in a broken box.
Unsealed it in some way, because that's not fair. They need to be able to resell it.
Then you could have lost a piece in transit, etc., and it wouldn't be in a resellable condition. You've had an example, though, where that was used as an excuse for a customer without grounds for it.
Another extraordinary case. I have taken it up with Take-A-Lot, but only yesterday's, and I've given them a couple of days to respond. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was also Lego, funnily enough.
Yeah.
he bought the Lego online, not realizing that his wife had bought the identical one in a store the day before.
Oh, shame.
So he obviously wanted to return it. And what he did was, it comes, you've got the Lego, the product itself in its own box, then gets placed into a Take-A-Lot box, taped up, etc. And so he put it back in the box and wrote on it, return and the number, whatever, which I thought was quite good. And actually, if you go to Take-A-Lot's own return section on their website,
that's what it tells you
states,
to do.
clearly mark your return reference number on the outside of the parcel. On the outside of the parcel. So I think they should be more specific. They should say on the brown Take-A-Lot box. But anyway, that's what he did. The Lego was untouched. He had no reason to touch it because he knew that
it was a duplicate.
His wife bought the exact thing, right? And that got sent back. Because of a lot of pen markings on the item. It wasn't on the item. And he's got photos that he's sent them. And he's shared their exchanges. So it's gone into a thing. And Debbie M. from Take-A-Lot is saying, no, sorry, you've written on it, pen markings. It was a felter pen. And he's going like, are you kidding me? And this is what I'm talking about. When you get trapped in an absurd situation,
there's no way to escalate out of it.
No, except to someone like me, or So I think they're just really big and strong, and just they don't seem to kind of care too much when this sort of. I don't know.
As you said, hopefully it's the minority of
cases.
It is.
We keep saying that to be fair.
It's the minority of cases that they're not well practiced
but
in
when it
dealing with
happens
them.
to you, it's a lot of money and it's outrageous. So I'll report back on what I had another similar case actually around packaging, which the shopper and I didn't feel was fair. Because they're perfectly resellable, but we'll come back to that in another show.
Okay. The reason I wanted to slide in the mention of that, though, is you've said an important thing. He has photographs.
Yes.
Please, if you are going to return an item anyway and put it back into the hands of a courier, take photographs as you're putting it back into the box. Take photographs of it as it is fully wrapped at the end so that you have proof of what you gave the courier. Because we have dealt with issues where something was damaged in transit after leaving the client's house.
Remember the TV?
Yes, for example.
He got someone else's old awful TV, broken and dusty.
So take particularly if there's a defective. I had this. I had to return a little jewelry box I'd bought for my daughter because when it arrived, it had a big gouge out of the top, and I just thought I heard the voice of Wendy Knowler saying, "Take a photograph of that and keep a record." And in the end, they didn't query it. They just said, "Sorry, we'll send you a new one." But had they pushed back, you had photographic proof.
Yes. Use those smartphones. Make them work for you.
Make them work for you. Wendy Knowler, thank you as always. We'll chat again next week, Wednesday.
Lunch with Pippa Hudson
on CapeTalk.